Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Collector's Edition. My name is Isaac. We are doing just a brief history today of our company and how we got here. And hopefully that gives you guys not just some insight into us as a company, but also into, well, maybe some ideas for yourself on how you can run a business or how you can start collecting better or more in depth or with more success. So that being said, I'll just dive into it. This is one of those videos where I don't have a script, I don't have notes, I'm just going off the top of my head. So it might be a little rough because it's just me, myself, and I talking, and my editor is gonna make this look good, right? We started 3 years ago now, 2020, spring of 2020 was really when we got started. I say we because I have a business partner. He is in a career field that had a lot of free time during the summer. At the time, we were just friends. There's no business really in mind, but he knew I kind of had like this flipping gig doing, like, I did on the side on my own, and like, well, can I help you out with that and make some money this summer? I'm like, sure, why not? I have a couple crates full of video games. Why don't you take more to the local flea market and try and sell them? And we didn't have a tent. We didn't have any extra tables. Like the flea market provided one table. So we're like, sure, we'll try that for a week or two, see what happens. It's one day a week. And he went over there. He had a lot of fun and he sold quite a few video games. So like, wow, this is kind of something. So he went back the next week and lo and behold, he did it again. Great sell through like that. But at this point, we're like, well, we made a pile of cash. What are we doing? Are we just sticking this money in our pocket and it's going to be gas money? Or are we going to, reinvest it in some inventory, try and make something happen here? And we decided, heck with it. We're going to give it a shot, see what we can do. So at that point, I started buying more video games on both Facebook Marketplace, even eBay. You find some good deals where things were selling, like auctions were selling low, that kind of thing. And we started just resupplying ourselves. We bought a couple like of the white Lifetime folding tables and using them to, kind of expand our display. And yeah, we just kept kind of expanding week after week. We just kept taking that money and reinvesting it, and it kept growing. And all of a sudden we get to the end of summer, like, we made a couple $1,000s. This is a business. So at that point, we went ahead and got our paperwork in order, officially registered. We pay our taxes, all that kind of stuff. We paid taxes on everything that we'd sold up to that point, got everything straightened away there. And then we're like, well, what do we do through the winter now? Because he had to go back to his work. And I work full time through this, by the way. I'm full-time employed with my job. So I didn't have time during the day to be doing all this kind of stuff. It was solely on him. So we're like, well, during the winter, let's see if we can get selling online more. We did a little bit of eBay, that kind of stuff, which sounds redundant because we were buying stuff on eBay to sell locally. But yeah, we're selling on eBay. And then we started getting into card games, Pokemon, Magic the Gathering. My business partner had been a long-time player of Magic, so he was very familiar with the ins and outs of the game and stuff like that. It was new to me, but we decided, you know what? We're going to start selling on TCG Player. I'm guessing most of you, if you're familiar with Pokemon and Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Weiss and Flesh and Blood now and like that, you're familiar with TCG Player. It's a pretty good website from both the buyer and seller standpoint. I've done quite a bit of both on there. That being said, we started selling on there, and we're not like a massive seller on there. Like we dabble in it. We do basically a couple $100 a month. That's about it. But it pays for its time. It pays for the inventory, and it gives us something good to sell during the summer as well. We sell cards at our booth. They don't take up a lot of space at all, and they're relatively high dollar items. And like Pokemon cards especially are really popular with kids. Like Pokemon packs and just single cards and stuff like that. Like we had a $25 bin and kids loved it. 25-cent bin. And kids loved it. They would come in with, a handful of quarters and get 4 or 5 cards, and they were absolutely thrilled about it. So that's marketing wise is a really good strategy that we found, that just marketing to kids and just being very kid friendly or family friendly paid off. It's a great marketing strategy if you're looking to get into this at a flea market where there is a lot of kids around. Playing to that market can be very good. Also, like having your more kid-friendly games available on prominent display can really boost sales, because like games like Mario Kart, they're not only kids are getting recognized, but the parents as well, and so they're going to know it's very family friendly. So they're going to naturally gravitate towards that a little bit quicker. So that was kind of the first winter. And then the next summer, we're like, you know what? We're going to kind of expand on this a little bit. Went really well. So my business partner and I started looking around, and there's a couple other flea markets in our area. So we're like, well, I mean, the one is right there, like, 5 to 10 minutes away. And then the other one is half hour, 45 minutes away. So like it's doable. And then there's a couple others, around an hour-ish. You start going different directions. So we're like, well, we're gonna start hitting up these. And, one's on Tuesday, one's on Thursday, one's on Friday, one's on Saturday. We can basically make a full work schedule out of this. So we really started hitting those hard. Every week we'd go to as many as we could that weren't getting rained out that day. Even with a tent and tarps and everything like that, rain is the bane of electronics. So yeah, there wasn't a whole lot we could do some days or some weeks, even if we were getting, the remnants of a hurricane coming through. We were just out of luck. There was weeks where we didn't do very well just because of that. But at the same time, this was a very low pressure business. Like neither one of us were living on this income. It was just kind of side income, and it wasn't designed to pay bills really. It was just a fun thing. So that summer we hit a lot more flea markets. We went into one that actually had like a permanent booth there. We didn't have to haul stuff there all the time. That was great. That only really lasted this summer though, because again, my business partner went back to his regular job and we didn't have anyone to run it anymore. So that was the summer of 21. So the fall of 21, we, hey, we need to figure out a better thing over the winter just to keep this rolling a little bit, make a little bit more money. So we did two things. First, we got this space. This is a space we are renting in a building that just has like single room office type spaces for rent. We got by far the cheapest one, and it really suits our needs. It's almost more of a warehouse or backstock room than anything. Most importantly, it moved the entire business out of my spare bedroom that I alluded to in our first video. I moved it out of that spare bedroom into an actually designated office space, which was great for the business in the sense where we had space to expand. We could do more projects and all that. But the downside was like, I no longer just walked across the hall to get to my business. And that took a little bit of getting used to at first, but now it's not a big deal at all. I come here 4 or 5 days a week, and put in quite a few hours just working on things, trying to get things going. Sometimes literally like consoles. Yeah, like we moved into this space, and then we also moved into our first and only indoor flea market that's open 6 days a week year round. That was an incredible move. We actually started there January 1st, technically, of 2022. So we moved in here in the fall of 21, and then we started in the flea market January 22. So we moved in there. We started out with a very small space. After a couple months, we moved to a much bigger space. And then 4 or 5 months ago, we moved to a large space, at least in one of those locations. It's pretty respectable size, really, for having just video games, really. We do a little bit of comic books there as well. I guess some of the questions I've had people ask me about that space is like, well, how does it work having a central cashier? And realistically, it's not bad at all. We don't lose sales, really. I'm sure we lose some sales because it is a central cashier and we're not physically there all the time. But not having to be there drastically outweighs the lost sales at this point. And another thing I've heard people ask and complain about in general is theft. And not gonna lie, we've had theft. And it sucks. But it's a part of business. It's not something you can take personal. It's just the way things are today. So if you have a booth, have a business, factor in theft to your budget. Because you will have 2 to 3% theft every year. Just factor it in. It'll happen. And it's not necessarily all intentional theft. Sometimes it's simply something gets dropped and it no longer works. A console, a controller, whatever. And it no longer works. And yeah, you can probably fix it, but at least initially, like that's kind of like a theft or is a write off essentially. So that kind of stuff happens. It's nothing personal. It's just part of the business. Just keep that in mind if you are running a business or if you're shopping in a booth like that. Not that we want you to steal or want you to damage things, but it happens. And just be mindful to be careful so you're not damaging people's stuff when you're out shopping. So that pretty much brings us up to date with where we are currently. We are looking at expanding again, ideally actually into a storefront. So that is something we're working on. That is a much bigger jump because it involves labor, it involves more overhead, all that kind of stuff. So we are slowly looking at options that way, but that is not something that's probably gonna happen right away. But it's something we'll keep you updated on. And I'm sure we'll be doing videos about a store if we open one, just because that's gonna be an incredible jump, incredible experience. Just have a storefront and be running it. And yeah, eventually we might get to the point where both my partner and I can quit our day jobs and do this full time. That would be awesome, kind of a dream come true. But we're both realistic in the sense where if we're getting a couple $100 from this every month, like who really cares if it gets any bigger than that? But it is a lot of fun, and I hope if you're thinking about starting a business or getting into video games, that this kind of gives you some insight into how business started in video games. So yeah, we're in the heart of COVID when we started, and that didn't stop us any. You just gotta dig deep to get through it, stay strong, find friends, and yeah, it's an amazing world out there. Enjoy your day, guys.